Trump greatly miscalculated. He believed that the hugely high 145% tariffs would intimidate China. He thought that China would give in. It didn't. And therefore, he lost this battle.
Trade talks happened between China and U.S. a couple of days ago. Both parties have returned to the state before Trump's reciprocal tariffs. So what do you think are the main reasons that contribute to these swift changes?
Well, I think because the United States decisively lost this battle. Trump greatly miscalculated. The aim of the tariffs was therefore to turn around the growth rate of the US, particularly in regard to manufacturing industry, because the attempt to revive US manufacturing industry has been a total failure.
Certainly won't come out, right?
No, he could do, but he would have to have a reduction in US living standards. The problem with the US economy is it's over-consuming. There are some ways that you could cut the consumption without cutting living standards. For example, technically, military spending. But Trump's not going to do. He's not going to tackle the vested interest in the health service. If Trump's not prepared to do that, no, he certainly can't revive US manufacturing industry simply by tariffs. Firstly, there were going to be shortages in the United States. Secondly, the costs were going to go up significantly. He believed that the hugely high 145% tariffs would intimidate China. He thought that China would give in. It didn't. And therefore, he lost this battle.
You mentioned a couple of times about a battle and a war. I think that this battle will escalate to a war in the future.
Trump will try to have a war. What Trump will now try to do is he will try to get a whole series of other third countries, the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and other things, to take anti-China positions. My estimate would be that a number of countries will give in to Trump, and therefore he will decide to continue this attack.
How do you personally feel about the tensions between like US, Britain, and China that will go in the future?
First, as regards the United States, quite a lot of people in Britain would support the United States and wants good relations with the United States, but there's overwhelming opinion against Trump. I'm afraid a lot of the proper anti-Chinese propaganda, and therefore politically, there's a lot of belief of made up things about China. They don't understand how advanced China's economy is. They don't understand how the living standards of people are improved.
Since China has been mentioning a lot about opening up to the world and have more visa-free travels to China, I think more foreigners should come to China to know about it, right?
Oh, well, that's incredibly effective. I mean, I think the visa-free travel is a really smart move.
I've noticed that you're a senior fellow in China's Renmin University. I think you might come to China or live here for a couple of times, maybe?
I spend 4 to 6 months of the year in China each year.
Make the question more simple. Like, can you basically compare like the living standard generally to your life or in any other countries that you have resided?
Living in Shanghai or living in Beijing is basically no different to living in London, except you've got better transport in Beijing, and the streets are cleaner and there's less crime. And
I think most of the negative news about living standards in China and in overseas countries is about the political system, right?
The reality is most people in most countries don't care about political systems. The only time when people are interested in politics is when something's going wrong. In the West, in the 1950s, 1960s, when living standards were going up rapidly, everything was very stable. Now in the West, the United States, Europe, etc., living standards are not very good. They've been static or even going down. So there's a lot of political turmoil.
What you're referring is that politicians use China as a card.
Yes, that's what they do, but it actually is not very effective. If you look at the last American presidential election, both parties were anti-China, and I'd be absolutely astonished if China played any significant role in the outcome of the election. What played an important role in the outcome of the US election was that US real wages went down under Biden. It's not a priority. I mean, it's the same, if you ask people a question about, what do you think about forests or something, they may have an opinion on it, but they don't think it's very important. And that's the situation in the West.